Hi everyone, it's Julie here from Soul Sparklets Art. So one of the things that kids love experimenting with, and adults do too, let's be honest, I grew up in the 80s. That meant that neon and fluorescent things were everywhere in socks and scrunchies and just about everything that I own. So neon and fluorescent art supplies have made a comeback, and it makes for the most incredible art shows if you're an art teacher, or if you're a homeschooler, you can take advantage of it too. Just a little bit of a smaller scale. But what are the best art supplies for doing black light art? And that means art that looks really pretty during the day, but you get out of black light and it looks even cooler. So wanted to show you some of my favorite supplies. So the first is Let's Talk Painting. If you want to paint, this is Sax Versatemp. This is their heavy body tempera, and this is their fluorescent line. Now this is their red. You can buy these in a set. Now they are a little bit more pricey, this particular brand, but it's good tempera. That means that there isn't a lot of shaking you need to do when you paint it onto the paper. You don't have to apply multiple coats. You don't open it up and half of it has turned where the water has separated. So this is a really, really good paint. And it's one of those things to have on hand if you really want to bust it out in some really fun situations. You can also turn these by adding a little bit of white. You can turn these into a really like pastel neon, which is the coolest combo ever in my opinion. So the Sax Versatemp is the way to go. Now, if you are not happy with paint that is kind of the goopy mess and you're looking for watercolors, let's show you a couple of art supplies you might like. So here's Watercolor Magic. This is by Sargent. Now this particular liquid watercolor is a little bit goopy. It's one of the only things that I don't like about it. But what you do with this is you can squirt it into a little container. You can use it directly out of the bottle, or you can add a little bit of water to make it go a little bit farther. But this is just kind of a paint and go. It's very similar to this being a paint and go. You don't need to add water for these liquid watercolors. So this is Sargent Watercolor Magic. Now, if you're more comfortable with the pan watercolors, these are Ulis. These are called their Neon Chroma Blends, and these are beautiful. They actually look a little bit more pastel here. They go on black paper with a couple of coats also. So a lot of these neon art supplies are really beautiful for white paper and for black paper. And in a second, I'll show you how these look actually on white versus black paper so you can see for yourself. But this works just like a regular watercolor set that's pan. Just dip it in the water, grab your paint, and go. Okay, next one is these are colored pencils. So if you're looking to up your colored pencil game a little bit, you have older students. This is Royal and Langnickel, and they are absolutely beautiful. So lots of different colors. You can see all the variations in the reds and the pinks here, which I think is really cool that it's not just one fluorescent red. You have a lot of choices. So if you're looking to up level your colored pencil game, Royal and Langnickel has a set of colored pencils that are neon, and they're not that expensive either. Okay, let's move to oil pastels. I have used these so many times that you can see they're not looking that neat anymore. So let's show you the front of the box. Here it is. These are Crayola. These are not expensive at all, and they're really fun. If you're doing oil pastel projects, you can do the whole thing in regular oil pastels and just get out one or two colors of the neon to give it a little bit of a glow. We have an art project in the Glitter Bombers membership that is fireflies. You do the whole project and then you use the yellow to add like a little trail, and then it glows under a black light. These oil pastels are inexpensive. They work really, really well for kids to smear with their finger or a piece of paper towel. Now, Sargent also has a set, but they don't have as many colors. So the Sargent Neon Fluorescent set only has about 5 colors, where this has, I think it has 12 different colors. So if you're looking for a color variety, you're going to want to choose the Crayola. Last but not least, let's talk chalk pastels. Now, chalk pastels, if you purchase them, and they say neon or fluorescent. The problem is they aren't very often. So we discovered these. They are called Luminous Full Touch. Now this brand it can be tricky to get on Amazon. You can get them in class sets, or if you're a homeschooler, I would go for one of these boxes here, and there are a whole bunch of different colors, but one of the sets inside this little box, and I will show you, they come like this. So it looks a lot more like the chalk that you're going to use on a chalkboard in a classroom. Now, the really fun thing about these is that, listen up everyone, they are dustless. That means if you've been putting off chalk pastels because you're like, it's too messy, there's dust in the air, there might be allergies, this is the brand for you. I'm going to bring this right up to the camera so you can see. Actually, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but this tip right here is the tip that you actually draw with. And the rest of this, look at my fingers. I mean, look at that. Can you imagine doing a chalk pastel project with these? Now, these don't smear as much as if you're doing a project like this, where you're looking for this more spread apart chalk. However, if you're going in and you're wanting to add little tiny details for little things to just glow under a black light, this is what you want to see. So what do these actually look like on white and black paper? I'm going to take you down onto my desk and let's find out. Let's take a look at the paint first. So this is the tempera and this is the liquid watercolor. So you can see that it comes out fairly goopy. Now you can add a little bit of water to it, but what I really want to show you is how this paint holds up on a black piece of paper and on a white piece of paper. So here's the tempera, and you can see that you get a beautiful color on that white. Now take a look on black. You still get a beautiful paint stroke on both colors. So I really, really like this tempera because it shows up really well no matter what you're painting on. Now let's take a look at the liquid watercolors. Now the liquid watercolor does not usually show up as well on black as the tempera does. But let's take a look at how it looks on the white paper. You can see that the watercolor, even though it looks a little bit more goopy inside this container, and it's really hard to tell the difference, it acts like a watercolor on paper, which means it's more translucent, whereas the tempera is more opaque. Now here is this liquid watercolor on the black. Now you can see that you can barely, you actually can't see, but when you have a black light shining on it, you definitely can see it, but it's definitely not as vibrant as the Sax Versatemp right there. And you can see how pretty they both are on the white. So just some things to keep in mind. So that is the liquid paint. So let's get out the pan watercolors so you can see the difference. So these pan watercolors really work beautifully on both. I'm just going to stick with similar colors here just to make it easier. So here is the Uli, and this is the Uli pan on the white. And then this is the Uli pan on the black. Now you can see it, unlike this one here where you can't see it at all. And as far as being bright and vibrant, you can see that it's definitely just as vibrant as the tempera, just in a little bit of a different way because it's watercolors. So the Sargent Watercolor Magic is great when you're using the white paper, but stay away from it a little bit more often if you're using the dark, whereas the other two hold up just fine. So let's take a look at these colored pencils. So these are the Royal and Langnickel colored pencils, and beautiful color with both of these. I just picked two colors, and let's test them on the black. You can see that they show up. It's really nice to know that there's some colored pencils out there that show up on the black. So even this darker color shows up beautifully, and you can see that you're going to get a beautiful black light art show or glow in the dark experience with these colored pencils too. Okay, let's look at this oil pastel. So beautiful on the white paper, And almost all of these show up beautifully on the dark paper. They can look a little bit like a different color where the yellow starts to look a little bit more like green. I'm going to get out the purple so you can see, but they still do show up. Now, when you get out the flashlight, you can see that all of them offer a beautiful black light. And you can see this one's still struggling a little bit, but the rest of them are holding up really, really well. Okay, last but not least, let's get out this chalk and show you a little bit more about it. So this chalk, not all of these in this particular box are the luminous full touch. So that's what you're looking for, the one that says luminous. So you can see how there's two different yellows. Now, one of the ways I like to test for what supplies are going to look best under a black light is actually with this flashlight. So you can see right away which ones are the luminous ones. You can see this yellow right here, but not this one. You can see it right away. So it's actually this set right here. So let's see how that performs on a piece of paper. Now, when you're using these, there's two ends. You don't want to use this end. You want to use the end, and it looks just a little bit different here. You hold this part of the chalk, and then you want to just, you can see it still has a little bit of dust. I mean, it's kind of impossible to eradicate all of it, but take a look on the black paper. This chalk is absolutely gorgeous. And when you get out a black light, you can see it is absolutely beautiful. In fact, this chalk and the Versatemp are the ones that show up the most beautifully. So here's just a few art supplies that you might want to know about, and see you next time.